Greetings, church family. I am so thankful that you are able to see me, at least, but I sure do wish there was some way I could see all of you. I have been able to see some of you in some of our Zoom meetings, but even that is not the same as being together in person. For weeks now, our ministers have been thinking and talking and praying about when and how to reopen our church buildings in the wake of the public health crisis we are facing. We have also been diligently gathering information and input from medical experts, governmental authorities, and church leaders from our own region and other areas as well. As the economy gradually reopens and the stay-at-home orders are lifted, church members are understandably asking questions about when we might reopen our church buildings. Let me assure you, these are agonizing decisions that we do not take lightly. And we are praying for wisdom beyond our own as we move into the future that God has in store for us. We are so eager to reopen our buildings, so eager to see everyone in person again. And yet in our eagerness to gather together again as a church family, we want to be sure that we do not reopen prematurely or irresponsibly. Because of our great love for our church and the tremendous sense of responsibility we feel to do what is best for our congregation, both short-term and long-term, we would rather err on the side of caution. We would rather wait too long than not long enough to reopen our buildings. When we first reopen our buildings, whenever that is, our proposal will be to have only Sunday morning worship services with no Sunday school, no preschool or children's activities, no choirs, and no Wednesday activities. We hope to have the capability of live streaming our worship services by then so that people who are in high-risk categories or cannot attend for some other reason would be able to experience the same worship service live at the same time our congregation is gathering for worship in our sanctuary. Our 6 ministers have come up with some criteria, some guidelines that are helping us as we move toward a decision. We have asked our medical ministry team, comprised of 21 medical professionals in our church family, our 18 deacons, and Dr. Jerry Yuki, a member of our church who recently retired as the dean of the University of the South Carolina School of Medicine in Greenville, to give us input and feedback on what we are proposing. These are the guidelines that will inform us in our decision about when we should reopen our buildings. And these guidelines have the full support of our medical ministry team and deacons. Number 1, as much as possible, our church should comply with the guidelines for opening up America again, issued by the White House and the Center for Disease Control, which identify criteria that must be satisfied in our state or region before a phased comeback can begin. Criteria regarding a downward trajectory of symptoms and new COVID cases, as well as a sufficiency of hospital capacities in our area. Number 2, since the economy in our state has begun a gradual reopening as of May the 1st, we believe our church should delay our reopening until we have had a chance to see if there is another spike in new COVID cases within 14 days of May the 1st. Number 3, decisions about when to open our buildings should take into account the guidance and direction we receive from churches similar to ours and church leaders in our area. Number 4, the ministerial staff should rely on guidance and support from our medical ministry team and deacons before making a decision about when to reopen our buildings. Number 5, our ministers believe it is wise for us to delay reopening our buildings until our re-entry will not feel anticlimactic. We believe that if we were to reopen our buildings immediately, a lot of awkward restrictions would actually diminish the joy of our coming back together. For example, we already know that many people will not feel comfortable attending this soon. In fact, we would encourage people in high-risk categories not to attend when we do reopen our buildings. Many people who do attend will be wearing masks. We would have to maintain social distancing. We would have to rope off sections of our sanctuary, limit seating capacity in the sanctuary, designate certain doors as entrances only and exits only, close off certain restrooms and all classrooms, not have a choir, not even allow the congregation to sing at first, not greet each other with physical contact, allow an hour between worship services to clean the sanctuary and restrooms between services. On and on we could go with a list of restrictions that we believe would have to be in place for us to safely reopen our buildings at this time. We believe it would be better to delay our reopening until some of these restrictions could be relaxed or hopefully even lifted. When we come back together, we want the joy to far outweigh the frustration. And while we hope and pray it will not be much longer, we believe it is too soon for us to reopen our buildings now, and really too soon to project a date when we can. Once just a little more time has passed and we decide when to reopen, then we will be in a better position to make decisions about how to reopen, which is a whole complicated list of considerations to make. In the meantime, it is more vital than ever before for us to remain united and determined to live the greater way while we are scattered until the time when we can gather again in a meaningful and joyful celebration. Claiming the promises of Scripture, we believe that God is at work in all things for the good of those who love Him, that God's mercies are new every morning, and that God's grace is sufficient for us, even during these unsettling times. Please pray for our staff and deacons as we make these agonizing decisions on the basis of what we believe God is leading us to do during these unprecedented times. We love you and long for the day when we can all be together again in person, face to face, here in our spiritual home. Life is hard, but God is faithful.